Tim Rhodes. I'm a realtor with Angel Hessman Realty on Bowen Island, and I'm here to interview Shahar Rabi, Dr. Shahar Rabi, who's a psychotherapist and life coach. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I hear.
The first thing I like to ask, because I'm sure you've had this question on Bowen as well, is how did you get here, and how long have you been here?
Okay. So me and my wife been here for about 7 years now, 8 years. We came here because, no disrespect to Vancouver, that we just didn't like living there. We didn't like Vancouver anymore. It was too big, not personal. It was hard to build community, and it was crazy expensive, as you know. So my wife came here on a day trip and fell in love. She sent me a text with a picture, and she said, "You have to come and check this out." So I did, and we really fell in love with this place.
Yeah.
And first we rented a beautiful cottage, but then once my Saskia got pregnant, I think her nesting instinct kicked in, and she was like, "I want a house," and I was like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's buy a house."
Yeah.
Which we didn't think we could, but we did. It's just something that people need to think about, that sometimes I actually didn't believe we have the finances to buy a house until we sat down and discovered that we could.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
You look at the news and you think, well, everything's too expensive.
Yeah.
And if you kind of drill down, sometimes that's not the case.
Not the case, yeah.
I presume then the things that brought you here are also what kept you here.
Yes.
Are there anything
very
specific about
I always
that?
say living on Bowen, it's like living in the 50s
Yeah.
without all the crap
Yeah.
that used to, like racism and segregation.
Yeah.
But it's safe, the community is really warm, and we made good friends. That's nice. And what kept us also is a job. I found a job on Bowen.
You were at
the Orchard as a clinical program director at the residential treatment center that is on Bowen.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for about 5 years. It was really intense and profoundly life-shifting. I grew a lot as a human being working with that population. And at some point I wanted to move to something else. So now I'm commuting 3 days a week to a university downtown.
Mm-hmm. This is Adler?
Adler University, where I teach at the counseling psychology department, and then I do the rest of my private practice only on Bowen. So I have this split life.
Any particular spots on Bowen that speak to you?
Yes, the lake, Kalani Lake, for sure.
It's amazing how many people mention Kalani.
I am, without sounding too much of a hippie, I like, because I'm not, but I also really appreciate walking barefoot on the land in our parks.
Yeah.
It's very grounding, and we just don't have that chance in a big city because it's so cemented to just take your feet. Also, people would look at you like, like what's wrong with them? And here you can do that. Maybe people would smile, but nobody would think that it's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that I can do that. I like that I can take my daughter for adventures in the forest, and we go off trails. We go on these big adventures, and we know there's no bears.
Yeah.
There's no wolves, and there's but it still feels very, for her, she's 5, like epic.
Oh yeah.
Like we have to climb these trees and go under the rivers, and I think that's something that children are very blessed to have on board.
Yes, absolutely. It's a marvelous place for children. Adults too.
Adults too. Yeah.
Well, let's get into the meat of the interview.
Sure.
You're, I guess, you're a doctor, a psychotherapist. What led you into psychotherapy as a profession?
Well, it's a long story, but I would say that in my 20s I traveled around the world and lived in spiritual communities. I was a traveling monk, and some of it never ordained, but that's how I lived. I taught meditation and yoga, and kind of the nature of the mind, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, I discovered that no matter what, there's always this quality of being that wasn't going away, you can call it depression or sadness, and I saw that spirituality is not enough, so I did therapy. And after the second session, I said to my wife, I want to do that. Whatever she's doing, I want to do. It just transformed me so profoundly, so quickly, that I knew that that's where I wanted to go. So then I started my journey, and integrating spirituality and psychology, counseling and psychotherapy into this blend that really always is anchored in spirit or reality, but also is engaged in the developmental and psychological work that we're here to do.
I believe on your website I saw a statement where you talk about uncovering the goodness behind destructive patterns.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting approach.
Because I don't pathologize people as much as I can, and because people do things to meet their needs,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're maladaptive. And if we can just love them for that, and from that place take it down to the core need, then instead of getting rid of things, we're uncovering. So it's just way less work also. Because we can sit here and talk about your neurosis for the next 15 years.
Well, thanks for that.
I don't know you as well, but I can do it about me. And we can also find your strength, your capacity, your ability, and grow that.
Yeah.
It's just because it's already there, and you know how to do it because you're a human being.
Is it this approach that has prompted you to write your book?
Yes,
Because it's
part of
kind of a big idea, your book.
Oh, my book is maybe a little bit too big. It's the book is about how to do that work in relationship. So I think there's so many books out there, and I'm not saying anything new. When I talk to you, I claim that talk about the individual healing and therapy and growth, and I'm leaning on that. But there's not as many books about how to do that well in community. How do we find our place in this complexifying, diversifying world, without losing ground, without compromising on who we are and what we believe in, but also meeting others? Because to me, what we're not doing, we're very good at respecting each other. We're not very good at moving beyond respect into genuine new synergies, culturally speaking. So multiculturalism is an amazing phenomena, but the downside of that, it can, I'm not saying it does, but it can isolate us into these like group of identities that we respect.
So things like a religion might get in the way of getting to know someone.
Yeah, that's one
better.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
The other aspect is how can different religions come together to learn from each other, to grow with each other. So how can we, it's a little bit like this. In order for me and you to go into the relationship, I don't need to lose myself.
Right.
Right? So the same thing with religions. In order for two religions to grow in their relationship, the people who are religious in each group don't have to give up on their own religion. People sometimes have a hard time shifting from, I can understand that in friendships, but I can't understand that in worldviews.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing right now is a war of worldviews in religion, in culture, and society. And I think part of that is that we don't have the right maps to get us beyond that, and that's what the book is about.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
It's hard. Like I think that I believe that we don't really know how to do it yet well. And I'm not saying that I have a solution, but I am saying that I'm trying to create a kind of conversation that is currently not happening as much as I would like it to see. A conversation where we ask ourselves not only about the problems of the world, but that thinking behind that got us to the problems of the world. So we're kind of stepping back and going, okay, this is what's going on. How do we get here? And why are we seeing such a retraction in many countries into authoritarianism, into group identity, into extreme politics, into narcissism, into dislocation? These are all documented phenomena that are spiking.
Yeah.
And clearly, these are adaptations that are not working. So consciousness is trying to evolve. That's all I'm saying.
Perhaps one of the reasons for seems to be an epidemic of loneliness.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the sense of being a misfit. Back to the sense of not finding our place in the world because of globalization. Because we lost our lineages. We lost our tribes. We lost our religions. We lost social and cultural context. So we gained freedom, incredible amount of freedom,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But we paid the price in that freedom to kind of be thrown into the universe all on our own. So I don't want people to go back, but what's ahead of that?
Yeah. I guess basically the people who have kind of freed themselves, for lack of a better term, from all of that, and then those people who tend to cling to it too closely, perhaps.
Yeah, every worldview has a shadow.
Yeah.
Progressive worldviews have shadows that sometimes I'm actually having a harder time claiming. Liberal worldview has shadow. Individualistic worldviews have shadow, and religious and ethnocentric. So each one of these perspectives truly and honestly believe that they're seeing reality. But they're all seeing reality through the filter of their worldview.
Right.
So if we can get everybody into a room and say, we're all stuck in these worldviews, what happens then? But not only that, not just like some sort of nihilistic, relativistic, it's all structures of the mind, but saying every single worldview in this room matters.
Yeah.
That's where I think people are having a hard time. They'll be like, yeah, I can deconstruct reality, sure, yeah, it's all culture and social, but saying the person who believes in God matters, and the person who is an atheist matters, and the person who is a radical postmodern matters, and these three need to work together.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
It sounds like a life's work.
Yeah. I'm just putting it out there. I'm going, you guys go do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just kidding. But yeah. So that's what I'm playing right now. I feel like that's where the edge of consciousness is, and yeah.
So where do you see this taking you in terms of your career? Like, is this going to force you off of Bowen into world tours?
No, because I don't want to lead. I want to lead from behind. I'm not interested in being this. It's not what I came here to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put the book out, and I'm going to, if it catches on, I'll do some trainings for those who want to take the lead and do the book tours, and that's all. That's all. Yeah. That's, like I said, that's not what I came here to do. I think I want to be part of a growing movement of people who are noticing this and collaborate for the sake of our sanity and sustainability.
The book will be out
4 or 5 months.
soonish? 4 or 5 months.